This conference will now be recorded.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Town of Southbridge, February 11th, 2021 Board of Health meeting. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Southbridge Board of Health will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southbridge website at www.ci.southbridge.ma.us. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner, as usual, via cable access, TV Charter Spectrum Channel 192. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post the Town of Southbridge website an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive records of proceedings as soon as possible after the meetings. All right. Roll call.
Beth Stevens,
Yes.
Roland LaRochelle,
Present.
Bill Duffy,
Yes.
Anthony Pastali.
Yes.
All right. Agenda item number 3, accept the meeting minutes, the special meeting minutes from January 7th, 2021. Everyone have a chance to go over was that? No, it was the other one. Okay. The meeting minutes, did you have any questions, problems, or concerns with that one?
Nope.
All set.
Okay.
No, I make a motion, because Rich sent out an amended one. We make a motion to accept it, and you'd see that, and I think the last page, she added the amended version, I think today from Nicole.
Yeah.
That we accept it as written, as amended.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
do
is
I
that
have-
a motion, Roland? I made a motion to accept as amended,
you can
yes.
second.
I'll second.
Okay. We vote?
Beth Stevens,
Yes.
Nicole Duffy,
Yes.
Anthony Pastali,
Yes.
Roland LaRochelle.
Yes.
All right. And now the meeting minutes from January 14th. Did you guys take a look at those? Those are okay?
Those are fine.
Do
Yeah.
we have a motion to accept?
The only thing I saw was a typo for Ritz. It might be on page 6, it might be a little thing, but on the top of the page, second paragraph, it states that the individual, because the construction loan in the building, the lender will not fund any else instead of probably anything else. That's about it.
Housekeeping.
Wow, that's
Housekeeping for legal documents. I saw Gus
Come
over
on,
there.
Rit.
I'm picking on the legal document housekeeping stuff.
wow, this is tough.
Tough crowd today.
It's gonna keep me awake.
Is there any other punctuation you'd like to comment on, Roland?
No, Graham is good. Just that one thing.
right.
Thank you, Tony.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from January 14th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Ritz?
Bill Duffy,
Yes.
Anthony Pastali,
Yes.
Roland LaRochelle,
Yes.
Elizabeth Stevens.
Yes. Well, we're all over the place today.
We are.
Keep everybody on their toes. All right, agenda item number 4, citizens forum. Is there anyone present who wishes to address the board about anything that is not on the agenda? Anyone? Anyone?
Hi. Hi, it's Maureen. And I'm not sure if this is on the agenda, but you can probably guess what I'm gonna ask. Okay, but I don't have time to read it right now.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna ask where the bag ban is. I'm just wondering, it's February, so I'm just
Oh,
wondering what happened.
are you talking about for Bunny?
Well, in general, I thought that it was suspended for a month.
Well, it
And the
was.
month
There's
that
no one
was in
using,
December. So I'm
there's
just
no one.
wondering where it is now.
So we're back to business as usual. There is no one using plastic bags in town.
Oh, okay, great. Because we were at Big Bunny yesterday and I noticed there were paper bags at the register, but I honestly didn't look at the self-serve things. So I was just wondering.
Oh, no, he was actually here last meeting to just double check that there was no confusion. But no, I've been in there and they actually, if you look, they have different bags now for the self-serve counter than the other bags. They're smaller and thinner.
Oh,
So I
really?
think that that's what they figured out would work better for their situation.
Oh,
But
okay.
as far as I know, I mean, we gave them a date and that's been taken care of, and I haven't seen any plastic bags anywhere else.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for that update.
Sure. Anybody have anything to add for Maureen? No? Okay. All right. So we'll move on. Agenda item number 5, COVID-19 update. Andrew?
Good evening. Not too many general announcements. The state of Massachusetts went back to 40% occupancies over the 25%. They had done a special move post-Christmas to address the spike to bring occupancies in many types of businesses down to 25%. They're back to the 40% occupancy or 8 people per 1,000 square feet. So that has been restored, and I believe that is the only. Oh, and Charlie Baker announced recently that at the mass vaccination sites, the Massachusetts-sponsored ones, a caregiver who brings in a 75-year-old can also get the shot. Understand that is only at the mass vaccination sites. That is not at the private sites. Harrington's site here in Southbridge has opted to not entertain that. And the reason for that is that we do not get the number of shots that the big sites have. So in order to make sure our shots go to the targeted population, we are concentrating on the targeted population. So if somebody wants to get a shot as a caregiver, they would have to make an appointment at one of the mass vaccination sites. And those are popping up readily around the state. All right. Today, I did the calculation on the positivity rate for the last 2 weeks. For the second week in a row, we are under 10%. We had 180 positive cases over the last 14 days out of 1,900 tests, bringing us to a 9.4 positivity rate. I'm kind of excited about this. It's been a long time since we've been under 10. Last week, we were at a 9.7, I think, or 9.8. Today, we're at a 9.4. Hopefully, this trend will keep going, and we will see some reasonable numbers in Southbridge again. The burden, the job of staying on top of the vaccines and stuff has led me to ask Mr. Rowland to act as my distribution coordinator. Mr. Rowland has a strong background in emergency response. He knows how to deal with developing situations. So I've asked Rowland to step in, take on the vaccine distribution efforts. What that means is he will be stepping in to coordinate any public health and Harrington issues that may arise at the existing clinic, but also he'll be looking for ways to keep the people who are looking for vaccine out of the clinic by trying to find alternative means of getting the vaccine to them. So things like coordinating with the housing authority, which has a huge population, any business that might want to do it. I'll be looking to him to hopefully coordinate efforts with the bigger populations in town, hopefully bring the vaccine to them if there's opportunity to do that. And he'll have to identify if the opportunity exists or not. I'm not saying it's going to be totally, it'll totally keep them out. But if there's an opportunity, we want to investigate it and find it. So I've asked Roland to step in and do that. Keep it.
Andy, quick question.
Yeah, please.
Do we have any information from the pharmacies, if and when they're going to start here in town? Because I know at that meeting, they didn't really have a lot of information, but I have seen on the news that, that they were saying that that most of the pharmacies were supposed to be starting to get vaccine over the next week or two. I didn't know if maybe we were on that list or not.
To my knowledge, CVS is not planning to do it. I haven't reached out to Walgreens yet, but CVS in Sturbridge, I believe, is going to be a vaccine site. I don't believe CVS in Southbridge is. Having said that, CVS did enter our rehab building, and they did the inoculations there. Because they have proven that they are capable and willing to do that, I'm hoping that one of the things we investigated as a town is, can we get them to bring it to other venues in town so that we don't have to kick up a clinic, but we can still effectively get the vaccine to the isolated populations or the populations we know about, the housing center, the Teresa Ave area, any business that wants it, the schools, things like that. So hopefully we'll be investigating into, can they bring it to us on that type of basis? But I do not believe they plan to have a clinic or have a shooting vaccine center at the Southbridge CVS.
Okay, but they are going to do the one in Sturbridge. All right, well, that's good to know. Thank you.
All right, the clinic, activity at the clinic. We're currently generally running 180 to 250 vaccines a day. We have had spikes of over 400. The intention is to bring it to 500 a day. And Rolly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that starts tomorrow, or is that next Friday?
No, it's
No,
not. The goal tomorrow is to crest the 500. I want to say Tuesday or Wednesday, they did something like 460.
Yep, last Friday they did 460.
It was last Friday. Okay, so.
So they've done it a couple times, Roland. They did it last Friday and Tuesday, I believe.
They have been very close. So the goal is to see if they can maintain 500, and that's the goal for tomorrow. Not to take the wind out of Andy's sails, but I want to just publicly state that and to thank the Rubicon team. For those who don't know, the Rubicon team is a group of veterans that volunteer their time and services for any kind of disasters or any kind of emergency situations. And I don't know if Jason Osborne, the emergency management director from Harrington, got it through the Medical Reserve Corps, how we got it, but we have 8 members every day, promised every day, as long as this facility is open. If the facility is opened on weekends, they're going to add 8 people on weekends. So they're going to do anything from traffic control, which there is a whole new traffic plan for tomorrow using a lot of technology so we don't back traffic up, as well as helping people in and outside of the facility. So I wanted to publicly thank the Rubicon team for what they do. They're fantastic people. But the big day is tomorrow, and we're supposed to have a shooting with the cable access, I believe tomorrow afternoon, so that it can be publicized on the people to show what to expect as this process continues on when you're going to enter the facility, what to expect, how the flow is, and to make things go hopefully smooth. I mean, it was very busy today. There's a lot of good things, and like Andy says, as long as we see a lot of things on TV, a lot of places ask for vaccine, they're not getting them and everything else. So far, knock on wood, we're doing well. As long as we get the vaccine, and I'm speaking for the group at Harrington too down there, we plan on using it. There is talk about possibly planning the logistics to open on weekends because they are not open Saturday, Sundays. So there is some behind the scenes legal stuff about paperwork and things like that that require credentialed Harrington people in our ends. So they have volunteers, they have other things, but that is being discussed right now on a soft opening on the Saturday. Possibly the 20th, that's tentative right now, but that's what we're working to. The goal is to get as many shots in arms as possible, so it's working well.
All right. Hopefully, with the appointment of Roland as my distribution coordinator, I'll be able to continue my concentration on public health matters, and also the case. I'm going to say follow-up, but mostly I do case closing. I have to transfer every case individually to CTC, and then I have to review their closing and make sure that it's a satisfactory closing, or call the people myself. So that's still taking up a lot of my time, but by getting this off my plate, I'll be able to put the effort into that it deserves. Back to the clinic. The clinic has done, as of the Monday of this week, the clinic had done right around 6,000 total doses throughout its lifespan so far. Of those total doses, 12% of them have gone to Southbridge residents. That's about 621 went to Southbridge. On the beginning of this, please.
What was that first number? I'm sorry.
It's just over 6,000.
Okay. Thank you.
All right,
Sorry.
so total vaccines administered just over 6,000. 621 of them, as of Monday, went to Southbridge residents. Remember, we are a regional clinic, so the hospital is trying, and rightfully so, trying to serve their catch basin, which is 18 towns. So having 12% of them go to Southbridge is a nice reflection on Southbridge's get up and go, let's get in there and get it. We have announced out of the blue on the 29th of January, Governor Baker changed the phase 2 and promoted 75-year-olds and over to be the step 1 of phase 2. So we immediately went into action. We were planning it for the end of the month, and we were slowly planning a registration plan. But we jumped into action. Paul, Rowley, myself, Pat Bukowski, and quickly got a registration program up and running. The Board of Health office, with ridiculous assistance from the clerk's office. The clerks have stepped up and are saving us and helping us register people. And Pat Bukowski down at the senior center, we have registered together 246 people who are over 75. There is no waiting line. We are registering as quick as we can get them, so there is no standby sheet. We literally have everybody who requested it registered. There will be a 911 call or a reverse 911 on the Everbridge system tonight. I asked Paul to put out a reverse Everbridge call. Because we don't have a waiting sheet, that tells me that we should be ramping it up and trying to get more people to say, hey, I want this thing. So we're putting out a call, hopefully this evening, to anybody who's over 75 to please call the Senior Center or the Board of Health so that they can be hopefully registered on the spot, but if not, put on a list that we can move forward and get everybody registered. Having said that, again, to keep the burden off our clinic, if anybody is willing to travel, we are encouraging them to sign up through the state mass vac sites. They have much more supply, and the more we can get from their supply, the further our supply will go. So we're just trying to extend the life of our supply as far as we can by encouraging people to go to the other one. However, we don't hesitate to put them on if we can accomplish it. Other than that, Haddock, I'm sorry, who did I say? Bukowski? I don't know who Pat Bukowski is. Pat Haddock.
Yeah, I was going to say, Pat
Huge
Haddock.
apologies. I think Pat Bukowski was a senior center coordinator in one of my other towns, and it just stuck in my head. I'm sorry about that, and I'll apologize to Pat right now. Other than that, I think I am good. Is there any questions or any updates that I'm missing that the board wants information on?
You know what, Roland, before I go to you, I'm going to go to Gus because he's been waiting patiently. I didn't forget.
Okay, thanks, Beth. Just a couple of quick things. One off is that you were talking about the creating this extra list for people to get vaccinated. When I was doing Meals on Wheels this morning, the Harrington people were coming in actually looking for people in very short notice who could do some of the leftover doses. So it'd be good to have a list of people who haven't yet been vaccinated, who aren't actually registered, who could be called up, who are interested in getting vaccinated in short notice.
So Gus, I know Harrington did have a list that they were going through for those extra doses. So maybe they've caught up their list already.
Yeah, they were using Pat Haddock's senior center list, and she
Because
didn't have.
they had, because they were doing, before they went to the next phase, they had a list of a few pages long that they've been running through, getting other people vaccinated that were going to be coming due. They
Okay.
could come on short notice.
Okay. And the other thing I wanted to ask about is back to what Roland was saying a little while ago. I was curious if during the process of trying to reach out to some of these other facilities, do you know if there would be any legal way to reach out to people who are shut in, say they maybe don't have transportation in any of these facilities, but live alone or with just a husband and wife or something out in the outskirts of town to get it? Because there are probably people out there like that. So
One of the things I've requested Roland start looking at is how do we identify the homebound? Are they
Right.
truly homebound? I mean, very soon we're going to see vaccines showing up at the primary care physicians, and even the homebounds seem to make it to their primary care appointments. So we're going to try to identify the homebound, and then like a subsection, those who are truly homebound and can't get out.
right.
There is almost no advantage on the face of the earth to being homebound, except for one very significant one in this situation.
Mhm.
If you're homebound, you have extreme control over who you are exposed to.
Yeah.
So they have a certain built-in protection. Does not mean I do not want to get them the shot, but it's something that we can take a week, 2 weeks to develop this list and then supply them appropriately. That's something Roland and I have talked on, and if Roland, if you want to comment further on that, it might be worth it.
We did speak today, and her name, she's going to kill me tomorrow. Her name escapes me, the one that's in charge of Meals and Wheels.
Yeah, Kathy. I work for.
Kathy.
Yeah.
We talked today about it, and the other thing you can help us, Gus, because I see you writing. We've already talked to the Meals and Wheels because there's a reason why you people deliver meals.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
like Andy says, we discussed today, is there a way that people can get out?
Mhm.
Now, if because of their physical issue, maybe their insurance will allow them a wheelchair van that will take them to their doctors. Well, one question is, will the wheelchair van and their Medicare or Medicaid, whatever they have, pay for them to go to the clinic? There's a question. But we're compiling a list of those who are completely homebound, and I want to bounce something else off that Andy started with, and that's been the Everbridge. We got that after the tornado. And if you can help us in your other career, Gus, or your other two careers by town counselor in writing it,
Mhm.
we're going to hopefully capitalize on it. Also, a little spew on it tomorrow with cable access. If we can get the more citizens to sign up on that citizen alert tab on the town website, we're trying to push that information out. But when you sign up on that website, you can also add your special conditions. So let's say where you live, Gus, if you are on oxygen and we noticed that your area of town went out of power, it can be looked up on the Everbridge to say that you are oxygen dependent, and now somebody can go check on you to say, do you have bottles and how many, or do we have to get you a generator or move you? The other thing that's going on to help out the police chief, we see this on social media. They putting out the parking ban
Right,
on Everbridge, but you don't get it unless you signed up.
right.
So you got all these people going, I can't watch the Super Bowl with the sirens. Well, if you signed up for Everbridge, you would have got the thing that says it's a snow ban and you're not supposed to be parking on the snow routes. So
Yep.
it'll help out everything all the way around. So I think this is another time that we can capitalize on it.
Okay,
The use of the Everbridge, but to get what you're talking about, we're working through, we spoke to the hospital people as well, but
Mhm.
we're working through Meals on Wheels, and I'm gonna talk to Jason again tomorrow, but we're working with them that maybe through them network, they can send an email out to all the doctors that if they know in their respective towns, not only ours, but in their respective towns, if they have people that are homebound that can't get out of their house
Right.
by hook or crook, notify those local board of health on the
Hmm.
specific stuff. And then we're gonna take it from there, what we need to do.
Okay, that's good. I
I
do know
do-
of a few people, for example, on routes that I think they dropped off specifically out of fear of exposure.
And
I
that's
think
the other
there are
thing,
people that I used to deliver to that aren't on the route and haven't been there for a while. So,
yeah. And who knows? And you know,
Right.
and that's only if they want it. And
Right.
like Andy said, if you have somebody that's home by themselves and they have food delivered to their curb and they don't go anywhere, they don't have any visitors, the chance of, exposure is very, very slim. Not that we
Yeah.
want to, not that we do not want to include them, because we need to know these people for other emergencies as well. So I
Right.
think we can capitalize it all the way around.
right. Do you know
If
how
we
many
do-
people have signed up to Everbridge?
You'd have to talk to Paul, the fire chief, on that because he's got the control on the whole thing. But I know we tried after the tornado and I sat in the library for 2 days for anybody who couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I got one person.
I'll
I
admit that I
believe-
didn't sign up for quite a while, but we are signed up at this point. So,
Yes.
I believe that Paul has given me a number in excess of 5,000 that are
Okay.
signed up for it. However, that doesn't mean there's 5,000. I'm on Everbridge because I work in Southbridge. I'm not a citizen of Southbridge. Somebody whose mother might be in Southbridge might be signed up just to get a duplicate. So there's probably a lot of duplicates, husbands and wives most. So I don't know how many households we reach, but I believe Paul gave me a number of in excess of 5,000.
Right.
okay.
Second point, homebound. I have a nurse who is, I have been offered a nurse, husband of a friend offered her, who is willing to bring the vaccine to the homebound once we identify them.
That's what I was
There
thinking.
is a whole lot of bridges we have to cross, dams we have to cross, because there is chain of custody of the vaccine. There's
Sure.
responsibility of keeping the vaccine in proper temperature. There is, can she work under the clinics? In order to have a clinic, you have to have a clinic number. Can
Right.
she work under their number, even though she's doing it remotely? We'll have to find a way to enter the information remotely, and get it back there, because there's a 24-hour reporting requirement of anything that the hospital does that has to go into the system. So there's a lot of bridges to cross, and where Roland and I have started talking with the hospital about, can we coordinate such efforts once we identify the homebound?
Mhm.
So we are working on that one.
Okay, great, thanks.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, Tony, go ahead.
Roland. Hey, Roland, why
Yeah.
does what is it, the Everbridge, what's the system's name?
There's many, for lack of a better term, there's many companies that offer this reverse 911 type alerting.
But
The
ours
company
is
that
what?
The town purchase is called Everbridge.
Everbridge. So, hey, and I'm sure there's a legitimate reason, but why does that lie with the fire department?
Because the fire chief is the emergency management director, and it lies with the emergency management. That's where it
Okay.
starts.
Thank you.
And I will
Thanks.
tell you, it's very good, because like, let's say you and your wife sign up, Tony.
Yeah, I get the calls.
Yep, you get the calls, but what a lot of people didn't know, like when I signed up, I can put my parents' address, that's how Andy signed up, is an address of interest, which he put 41 Elm Street if anything happened in town. But you could put something on there for, let's say, one of your parents' address, like I did. so that if anything happened out in their neighborhood, I would get an alert as an interested party. And you can actually, if there was a gunman across the street from your house, we could circle your neighborhood and isolate that house across the street and make everybody else's phone rings or their email or their cell phone, however you wanted to, and give a message to stay away from your windows and shut your lights without activating that one. So you can go down to the house. You don't always have to go townwide.
The
And
benefit
it
of
all
keeping
stemmed
it,
from the tornado. We had no way to act, no way to alert people, and people were walking Main Street going to the banks, and bank people were saying, get in here because there's a tornado less than a mile north, and nobody knew. So that's where it stemmed from, because we had no system.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but that's the name of the system.
All right, Andy, anything else?
not under COVID update.
All right. So shall we move along to the, oh, Gus.
Sorry, I forgot one more thing. To tie into what either Roland or Andy mentioned a little while ago about the changes in traffic. Just to let you know, if you weren't already aware of it, the police chief mentioned it at the council meeting. It's going to be a one way. It's going to be one way from Cisco Street to the end of Chestnut Street,
Right.
then
It's-
around the Armory, and then one way down Armory Lane.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
was,
has been tweaked.
Jane had mentioned last week that it was going to be set up very similar to voting.
But it's been tweaked as of this afternoon again. So if there is no parking spots, there will be somebody at the entrance to the Armory driveway. They have technology. They are going to check you in. And if there is no parking spots, you will be circling around the block on the next street where they will have somebody. And when there's a spot open, technology-wise by cell phone, they're going to say, send me the gray pickup. Send me, and everybody's going to stay in their car so that we don't block Chestnut Street. And at the same token, everybody's in their vehicles. And that way, if there's any emergency vehicles needed over in Roger Street area, we're just going to move them. So that's what the Team Rubicon is going to be doing. Very similar, but it's been tweaked in case we get overburdened with people.
Oh, that's good, because I've noticed that there's also been people standing outside in the cold, and that wasn't cool. So I don't know I didn't know how we would fix that issue, because I know people like standing out in front of the building and go down into the parking lot. And
we're trying to work on that. I believe they have ordered another canopy like you see at the hospital's testing site. And I think Team Rubicon is coming in with some portable heaters. There will be one side because it will go against that brick wall. And that if there are people outside, they will be under a canopy, and they're talking about getting some portable heaters. But the issue also is that they're going to be maintaining communication inside. And if it starts backing up, they're going to make people go around the block and stay in their warm car until there is a parking spot and there's foot traffic spots inside the building to alleviate that. Hopefully.
excellent.
All right, anyone else? Okay. The food program, Andy.
Some towns have identified a need. You put somebody in quarantine, it is like you are in quarantine right now. And, tomorrow was supposed to be grocery shopping day. So a lot of people in some towns have been identified as lacking food supplies for their quarantine period. So the state has put forth a couple of programs to hopefully accommodate this, making either food boxes or gift cards available to people with the need. I have had, I think, only one person ask me about food in the town of Southbridge. That does not mean that there's not a need for it. It just means nobody thinks of it out of the gate. So the food program would be to help get somebody through that quarantine period should they find themselves in such a situation. I have looked at a couple of programs, and I have actually, Miss Nicole has frequently express concern regarding the social and psychological end of things. So I have reached out to Nicole and asked if she would have any interest in at least investigating these programs, finding out if Southbridge could possibly use these programs, how they would work in Southbridge, and other stuff, basic stuff, so that she can form a report for the board whether we want to bring this forward or not.
Yeah, and I was taking a look at that, and I noticed, and I brought it up a little bit to you, but just to bring it to the board, I was kind of looking into that a little bit, and you know, Andy and I both agreed that I think, you know, it's been my experience that if people are already in the system, they tend to be taken care of. You know, it doesn't, you know, they're already connected. It's like once you're in the system, you're very connected to resources. I think the people who are falling through the cracks are the people who are not in the system, the ones who are, again, they're kind of invisible. And that can vary from different situation to situation. And I came across this guy who basically put together a nonprofit organization. It's called Buying Friends and Families Food. He's out of Spencer, and it's he's completely grassroots. And I've actually come across a family that was in need, and I reached out to him, and he literally delivered them food within 2 hours of when I said that. It's no referral. He's not connected to any agencies or anything like that. He's delivered to I believe 100 families so far. Just it's a bunch of food staples, and if they have any type of like food allergies or anything like that, you just let them know, and they shop, they deliver, and that's it. And I think that's great. I would love to kind of be a liaison with that at this point. I mean, the other program I'd love to look into. It just seems like the people who fall through the cracks and are really in need are, again, they're not in the system. They're kind of like unseen.
Well, so I was looking at this information that was passed along, and I get what you're saying, Nicole. I think that makes more sense. This just feels like there's just so much red tape to get anything done. You know, like you have to request this, and you have to, you know, meet these requirements and all this stuff. There's got to be an easier way. And, you know, good for you finding this other alternative. I mean, and the only other thing that I would say is, like, I kind of feel like this is a day late and a dollar short. You know, I mean, this has been going on for so long. Why are they just coming up with this idea now when so many people have been food insecure for months?
Right. Well, even in the sense if people lose their jobs or anything, I mean, I think this is a great thing now. And I agree with you, it is a little short with that, but just overall, like, just, I mean, the need was there either way. And I think that's a great, it's a great, you know, resource.
You know, absolutely. I do. I think it's a good thing, but I just feel like, why didn't they do this 8 months ago when everybody first lost their jobs, or, you know, first, you know, when all this stuff was just starting to happen. But I'm glad you found somebody that maybe is a little bit easier. And because, like I said, this just feels like it's just so much red tape and so much. I mean, if you have 20 families, how, you know, how it just seems like it's just hard.
Right, and how long, and even if we do that red tape, it's not even that. It's like, if we do that, how long will it take for the family to actually get the food? You know what I mean? That's really the main concern. And with this guy, I know from personal experience, I literally called him in 2 hours. He was delivering at the door. He's out in Spencer, and he delivered to someone in Southbridge. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Anyone have anything? Andy?
Regarding this program, we are tied into CTC now for doing the disease follow-up. So all first contacts go through them. I could probably get them to notify me of anybody who wants to get on some sort of food program if we wanted to go down this road. I believe they might even have their own food program that they offer people. I can delve into that a little further if the board wants me to go that way. I think there's a value to this program if there's a need for this program. As I said, I've probably got one call in all the time that expressed that there was a food concern during the. Most people have a family member who can go out and do their shopping.
Yeah, and I think the best thing is it's going to be word of mouth. I mean, that's exactly how this program is working for him, and obviously it's working great. And I mean, if we ourselves hear of anyone, or we just spread the word, you know what I mean, to our own resources. I mean, I think that in itself. I mean, if they want to just even call, you know what I mean, if they just even want to call, Board of Health, and we'll connect. You know what I mean? I'd just like to be the liaison for that and make that work.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think we can pull that together through the Board of Health, through the Office of the Board of Health. If people do express such a thing, we can pass on their contact information to Nicole, and she can be the liaison between the gentleman who delivers and the person who needs the food.
Nicole, does he do his own vetting? I mean,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
does this gentleman do his own vetting? I mean, it's a pleasure to hear that, and I agree, this is dollar short, a day late.
Hmm.
And looking at this program and the connections on Web EOC and everything, this leads me to believe that it originated east of 128. But out here, I'm pleasantly surprised to hear that Andy has had only one person that
Yeah,
needs food, because if it's a 2-week thing, you can call. I mean, I know my daughter and a lot of people, they give their list in their
yeah,
credit card, and people go shopping if they didn't want to do it. The older generation aren't going to do that, and they're too stubborn to ask for help.
I
But
think pride is a big thing. Pride is a very big thing across the board.
yes,
There's a lot of people falling through the cracks. People aren't seen. Exactly.
and I mean, even some of these people with the pride, give me your list. I will bring you your groceries. I will show you the slip, and you hand me cash. I don't have a problem with it. But my question was vetting, because like you hit the nail on the head. A lot of people that are on assistance have been taken care of. It's the older people with pride that are falling through the cracks because they don't want to ask for help. And I don't want to see people coming out of the woodwork if this is advertised because it's a freebie, and take it away from the people that really need it.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
So I think,
Well,
Roland,
Sean, he's not new to this, to vet the people.
just to remind you guys too, I mean, this is not like just for food insecure people. This is for people that are supposed to be in quarantine and
Right.
can't go shopping. So,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
so this also makes me kind of wonder, what have people been doing all this time? If Andy's only had one person inquire about how to get my food while I'm in quarantine, this makes me question whether all this time anybody had been quarantining to begin with.
Well,
You know what
yeah,
I'm
good
saying?
point. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, and it doesn't make a difference at this stage in the game, but this isn't just for like, hey, I can't feed my family. This is for, I had COVID and I can't go to the store. What do I do? And that's the difference.
Right. And I just want to be clear, this gentleman that does this, I mean, this isn't a matter of we make a list and give it to him. He has a set list of food staples, like, chicken and peanut butter and pasta and sauce, and, he's got a staple. The only thing is, if someone has food allergies, he'll absolutely, get, something gluten-free or whatnot. But just so people understand, that's why he's so quick. He gets like a big shipload of, like a food staples, and brings it right away. And it doesn't matter if it, go
He
ahead.
probably has a standby, like, okay, this is the box. So he
Yeah.
probably has a few of them made up and just kind of grab and go and
Oh,
replenish
well,
as you go.
yeah, I mean, he's been very big. I mean, like, when I've called him, he's like, I'm going to the store, I'm picking this up now. Like, but he has like a set list of things. But the great thing is that it doesn't matter if, it's someone who can't get out of the house. It's just whoever needs food in that moment, and he'll just deliver it. And he'll deliver whether it's, Spencer or Southbridge or, just any of the surrounding towns.
And I think we just got this through the office, like Andy said, because this particular program that was put forth is for people that are quarantined,
Right.
and you can't get out for 14 days. The other issue of people, I just don't want people to take advantage because maybe I'm cynical, but the whole society is cynical. This gives me an avenue not to go to the store and to be secluded. We want to make sure that good people like the gentleman that you're working with is going to work with people like the organization that Gus works for, works with people that need it. But I think, number one, Andy's got the list of people quarantined. And if yep. And if the consortium that's doing tracing, maybe he can just talk to him and say, FYI, and you talk, because Beth and I have done it. And some people have really confided in us without asking of their triumphs and their failures during the quarantine time and during their experience. So maybe the information can be gained that way and then go through the office. I mean, if there's a need, there's avenues, and that's absolutely wonderful. But, this is for the quarantined. And
Well, and the other thing too, I mean, if you look at the municipal requirements to be part of this, to be considered for this program, there's a lot of them. Like you have, there's, limited financial resources, unable to work because of quarantine, no one to go and purchase your food. You have to track everything. You have to, screen people for SNAP eligibility, WIC eligibility, all these other things.
Right.
This is, specific. I kind of feel like I like your idea a little better, Nicole, at this point, because there really hasn't been a huge amount of people reaching out, and that could change. That, I mean, we know, like anything,
Yeah.
that can always change, but it seems like your guy is just, you need food, we're here.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's kind of, because this is like a full-time job for somebody.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
A
And
full-time
you know what?
bureaucratic paperwork.
yeah,
And even if I could whip through that, and again, the main important issue is the fact that even if I would whip through that, how long would it take for them to get their food?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's something to consider. Like, this is great, but we don't have we haven't found a huge need yet. We may not, but but the program that you found, I think, just is probably for now, I think maybe the route to go. I mean, I don't know, how do you guys feel about that? Tony, Roland?
No, I agree.
I mean, I think we just continue what we discussed, that people that are on quarantine go through the office, because Andy has a list, and especially if you have large families, that the whole damn family's quarantined.
Right.
We did that, and if there was anything else that you needed, you guys all set. Most of the people, thank God, have been all set because they had people that were able to get stuff and drop it off at the door. But I think that your avenue, Nicole, is a heck of a lot easier for the need, and a heck of a lot easier, faster, and honest than the way that program looked. Like I said, it was probably gave birth east of 128, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So Beth, I think, hit it on the head, that the bureaucratic process to get this, you're better off pulling teeth in a chicken, because
Yeah.
it's going to be spring by the time you get your food.
Yeah.
So I think that
Good work.
I commend you for looking into that, and you're going to be the outlet for that. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Good work, my friend.
Not a problem.
Do we have anything else to add to this topic? Andy, we good?
Feel good. I think it's been vetted well.
All right. Shall we move along, children? Agenda item number 6, new business.
Yes,
Discuss
Mom.
proposed solid waste regulations. Oh my gosh, Roland, are you not so excited about this?
I am so over it. I put this forward, and you would see that Andy did some some editing to this, but we've had these people and we needed to do housekeeping to get this up to date. And looking at the old solid wasting, we had a whole section that, and I think it's 5.3 on waste containers, that describe the kind of containers and everything else. My opinion, we don't need a description of the containers because you're being issued one. And that's why I put the amendment that, and we could probably interject this into the system, but I tried to put some numbers on the containers that we can eliminate all the description of solid waste containers that not over 64, not over this, not over that, because we're issuing containers, we're not allowing people to use their own containers. So why do we need verbiage on a trash container when they're issuing it? That's why the one I did explain, so that helped us with the Lower Main Street problem that we had a couple weeks ago. Residential units up to 6 per lot or per parcel shall be issued a container. Done. The town containers, and only the town containers. And my thought process with this was that, especially in inspection and enforcement, that one page could be copied and left in a file at the town hall. So when somebody buys a house and they bought the house and the people that sold the house took the containers, the office can hand the people the regulation and say, go talk to your realtor. Because the containers are issued to the property, not the resident. And the realtor can either get the thing back, or the realtor can have the people pay the fee for the town to issue new containers. And I'm just looking to alleviate the problem, because if you got a container in this town, and Ritz has a very good database on trash, you're not getting another one unless you're paying for it. Now, with the bylaw being updated like this, there's something tangible in writing that can be handed to the landlords or handed to the poor person to hand to their realtor that just bought the house. The other thing that we still have to work on is not having the database for the recycling, and that's probably going to come back to the board. But I figured to update this for housekeeping, to bring it up, because the old solid waste thing did not reflect on the town issue containers whatsoever. Not whatsoever. So we had to update it with that. And it didn't have anything in the old solid waste bylaw about the cost of replacement. So that's why those monetary figures were in here for cost of replacement. So it's just something for the board to entertain for housekeeping, to replace the non-existent parts of the bylaw and describing what you need for a waste container, because you're not allowed to purchase your own. And the other thing that was put on here is updating it, that we've updated the recycling requirement. So the old recycling requirement of those open buckets that we first started with technically do not apply to our bylaw, even before this amendment. It's supposed to be with a cover. So then that way, that is in black and white, that use the old buckets for your firewood. You're supposed to use the new recycling containers for recycling. And I think this just updates and takes care of a lot of loose ends. So this is explained in the bylaws, and then we don't have to have people come before us every time somebody wants to appeal it. And this gives something for these poor people who bought the house to hand to their realtor to go after the people that stole the containers that belong to that property, which we don't have right now. And you know that's been a big thorn in my side for years. But just something for you guys to ponder. And Andy's housekeeping thing was a bunch of numbers, and I'd have to put this next to each other, but I think it was, if I looked at it, I think like 5220 was replacing the original thing of all containers. The old one. Where the heck did I have it? Oh, there.
Yeah,
Wow. Somebody wants to go out.
Sorry.
Yeah, 5.3 on the old bylaws described all these containers, and they really don't, that really does not apply on the specifications of a container because the town supplies the trash container. So make it simple and say the only container you're going to use is the town supplied container. And that's what I tried to do on the other thing.
Andy, do you have any, anything to offer up?
I do. Generally speaking, I like where Roland's moving on this. I think that we got to be careful when he suggests the remaining sections of 531 shall be deleted, because we are dictating the container. However, also in 531, section 53112, the total quantity of waste for any single collection period for an individual dwelling unit shall not exceed 64. If we take that out, 64 gallons, if we delete that out, that opens the door again to a second container, a third container. And 53113 says all waste must be contained in appropriate containers. Loose bags shall not be put out for collection. If we delete 53113 as part of 531, we have opened the door to letting people put loose bags outside the containers again. So if the board is open to it, I can play with this, make it work within what I envision to protect these two items. The second issue I have is, or the second concern I have, is proposing 54211, recycle containers, and putting the price in the regulation. As you are aware from actually my last regulations might predate many of you, but I'm not a big fan of putting costs in or fees in a regulation. We have a separate fee so that if we have to open this to change that price because the price of totes goes up and it costs the town more to get them, I think he's right. We need to dictate that in the regs, but I think it belongs in our fee schedule, not in our solid waste regulation. But we could put replacement of additional containers may be requested for a fee as dictated in our fee schedule. But I wouldn't put the price in this section.
Okay,
Other than that, Roland did a good job. It's solid. I'm good behind it.
so then really, Andy, what you recommend, because we do have the separate fee schedule, is replacement or additional recycled containers may be requested for a fee, and then just leave the specific amount out. Is that what you're looking at?
Yes. We
Yeah,
could
just
even
add-
even direct that section to our fee schedule,
Right.
To go
because
to the fee schedule?
it's a lot easier to open a fee schedule than it is to open the regulation. If you open the regulation, you are opening the whole regulation to review.
Now, could we make it simple, Andy? Because I missed the one about the loose bags, and I agree with you 200% on that. On the 53112, total
Yep.
quantity of waste for any single collection period for an individual dwelling unit shall not exceed the issued container.
The volume of the issue, the issue
The volume
must
of
be
the issued
contained in.
container. Yep.
Yep. So let me put some wording on that and get it back to you.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Because everybody
that's
gets
a-
stuck on the 64 gallon all the time. Well, 64 gallons, well, it's however much will fit in your trash can.
And the other thing I'd like to add to that, Andy, if you would, I didn't see on, this is waste, but also on the recycling, because we do offer two different size recycling
We
containers.
offer two different size waste too. I have a 35-gallon waste for
Oh, you do?
people who just aren't
Yeah, we do.
capable of moving the big waste can.
Well, I haven't seen any of that. So I think that would address both the waste and the recycling, that it cannot exceed the capacity of the issued container.
Of the supplied container. Yep.
Yep.
Now, currently, as the regs are written, we allow people, if they want to snub their nose at Southbridge and say, I'm not going to give you $50, we allow them to go to Depot and buy a 64-gallon container or a 96-gallon container, as long as it meets the code.
Which was why we put all that in the original regs to begin with.
So by doing this, we are taking that away from them for the waste container.
They never were allowed to have, and that was in there for only recycling, that the
Was it?
specs were in there if you wanted to add recycling. It is in there that states it must be vividly marked recycling only, but we never allowed people, when you went to the toter thing, if you had curbside pickup, you had to do the Southbridge toter and the Southbridge
Yes, we
toter.
did, Roland. Yes, we did.
Yes.
We did allow them to have outside toters as long as they met the regulations, which is why the regulations were in there specifically, the
No, no, but
specifics.
that's before the town purchased the Southbridge toters.
It
But
doesn't
now
matter
you're
though.
only-
There
You're
are
only
people.
allowed one toter per dwelling unit.
Correct, but not everybody has the town toter for whatever reason. There are probably people who have lost their town toters and said, we're not paying the town, I'll go and I'll buy a replacement for $20. So they're probably,
I will tell you, a compliant container at any store is going to cost twice what we charge. The $20 ones do not comply with our regulation because the grab bar's at the wrong height and it can't support the weight.
Throwing out an arbitrary number. I wasn't.
No, but I think looking at this also was from the other board on the curbside pickup. What's going to happen in a few years when we have to contract out? And I think that, we provide, the taxpayers provide a free toter to every dwelling unit in this town up to 6 units. Why somebody wouldn't take advantage of that? And they should take advantage of that. So especially when the contract's done, because I'm going to tell you right now, the seller doesn't care. They pick up everything right now. And I've seen more and more offbeat toters put out at the curb and they're empty. But when
Casella's out of control anyway. They picked up a car bumper from my neighbor, okay? A car bumper that was laying on their trash bin. They went ahead and took regular trash, Andy.
And,
so we're clear, Casella is not doing what they're supposed to.
We have free bulk. We have free bulk. They were just too lazy to put the figures in the
Well,
computer.
no, this is the same individual who is running a car repair shop in a residential area that, this has been an ongoing thing for years. So yeah, car bumper.
I was also looking at this.
But back to what Roland's saying, I understand what you're saying about, when we go to whatever our trash situation is going to be when the contract is up. But we are here and now. We can't do everything now just because of what we don't even know is going to end up being our trash situation in a couple of years either. I mean,
but I was under the impression that if you want the town of Southbridge to pick up your trash at the curb, which, by the way, this is a free country. So if you want to hire LaBeouf, Waste Management, and everybody else and pay for it, or get a dumpster and not use it, that's well within your right. But if you wanted free curbside pickup, we will give you a free tote and you will get it. But it's an identified Southbridge tote to pick it up. And a lot of the verbiage on this predated Andy's toter program, because I've got a tote that I got before the Southbridge toters came out that has a cover and everything else. That's when you could get your own, and the specs came out that you had to have the specs. But now we issue it, so why wouldn't we mandate people to use, you want Southbridge to pick up your trash, use the Southbridge tote. That's why we have a replacement policy, and this is why the people keep coming to us for variances on buying a new tote, because theirs disappeared when they bought the house. And we have a database that says one was issued. So every household got one issued. And then if they never had one issued, like what happened a couple meetings ago with the people on Hamilton Street, if you never had one, you're entitled to one. You're a taxpayer. But if you had one and used it in your wood shop and destroyed it, that's town property issued to the property. You should be responsible to replace it. That's on the taxpayer's back. Totes, you can have as many, recycling ones, have as many as you want. We're game for that because we want people to recycle more. But we will only give you the first one. But trash, we give you one, you use it, you respect it, but you should only have one. You shouldn't be able to put other buckets out even if they comply. That was the whole deal with the total program.
Well, no, but nobody's even saying that. I mean, I know it's happening because, I mean, we see it all the time, but I mean, that's not what we were implying by that you could just put out anything. I don't care, whatever you guys want to do.
I kind of hear you, Beth. Like, we're gonna, I know what you're saying, Roland, but we're gonna prohibit them if theirs is destroyed by some means. Their only option is going to the town.
I mean,
Well,
technically,
I mean, that's how it should be because it's town property.
correct.
But-
Now, if your neighbor's plow guy plows your neighbor's yard and you see him and he backed over your toter, that's town property that belongs to your house. That person should replace it. No difference if they backed over the street sign at the corner. They should replace it. You know, there has to be some kind of control on it. And this was to update the existing waste policy. I mean, both waste and recycling as far as containers to reflect what we're doing today. That was my whole, you know, and I agree, we can't look at what's going to happen, but maybe it'll make it easier what's going to happen in 2-3 years. But, you know, what's happening now is our policy does not reflect the Southbridge totes whatsoever. And there's nothing in it that says anybody's responsible for replacement. And that's why it was just a close, you know, a little housekeeping and close loose ends.
Nicely done, Roland.
So, you know, I'm looking at 53115 and 53116, and I totally get your point because those, especially those last two statements, they're moot. Because if you have the town issued can, then it's going to have a grab bar and it's going to have a tight fitting lid on it. So why would we even need to still have that in there?
Exactly, but those belong under the recycling containers because you are allowed to purchase as
Right.
many recycling containers that you own. I mean, as you want, because we encourage you to recycle as much as you can, but they have to have those things. But we no longer, that was my point. We don't need that in the waste because you're given a waste container.
It doesn't need to be in
Right.
the waste reg part, but
Right.
it should be at least in the recycling part. Like
Right.
the rest of it, 1, 2, and 3 can stay because that's, you know, but definitely 4, 5, and 6 should just go under recycling because you still, I feel like we still should have the, you know, those other parts in there about the loose bags and everything, because otherwise it's just gonna be a nightmare all over again.
Nope, you're right. I missed that.
I agree.
And when you look under recycling containers, they have 2.5 grab bar, 2.6 attached to fitting cover. So everything in there, and it also states capacity greater than 96 because, and I don't care how big you go, but I would not want to be working a truck. Let's keep it a standard thing, no greater than 96. We don't want 55-gallon drums out there, you know.
Hey, I have 96.
But no, the specs are already in there in the recycling. We don't have to change that, but it was just tidying up the trash ones for sure.
But yeah, so I mean, that's my opinion. And I think I agree with Andy about, you know, just directing to the fee schedule about the costs.
No, good catch.
I agree with that too.
I have a question.
So,
Sure. You're not
What is
allowed. You
happening?
already had your question tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is happening with our trash and recycling since it's not going to, well, I don't know. Is it going to the Auburn MRF? for recycling, or?
All
I don't
of the, all of the town of Southbridge trash goes to the Auburn MRF.
Yeah.
From
it
the
always-
Auburn MRF, the trash is then loaded into a monster truck and trucked out to, I believe, Albany, New York. And there's and it's not a Casella landfill, but there is a landfill out there that it's going to. That is the last I heard about that. The recycling goes to the Auburn MRF, gets separated and marketed however they can best market it.
Yeah, and I was curious because of the China thing. I don't know if China's still not taking recycling.
China is standing by their original decree. They are not taking it. However, markets are starting to open and processes are starting to occur here in Massachusetts and in United States. Anna just sat on a seminar regarding this, and corrugated is up in price right now, and plastics are up in price right now. So the market, I don't know if it's a spike in the market or if it's a market turnaround, but good things look like they're happening in the market.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Still no market for glass.
Oh my God.
Was there ever?
It was. There used to be a glass factory in Franklin. That
Yep.
glass factory shut down, and the market just fell out of it in New England. So now it's being used. It's not being recycled as much as used for aggregate and other alternate uses.
All right, do we have anything else? So then, Andy, you're gonna work on this?
I'll rewrite it, run it through Roland to make sure it satisfies what his intent was, and then we'll present it at the next meeting for initial approval, and then we'll go through the amending of a regulation process. We should be able to
Okay.
put this in place, and if we have a meeting next month to approve the draft, we should be able to put it in place within a month to a month and a half after that.
Are we gonna have to,
Yep.
are we gonna have to public hearing and all this other stuff?
Yeah, we are changing a regulation. We need
So,
to public hear it.
We're gonna have to do two of them then, because we're gonna be adding these two items on the fee schedule.
Yeah, we'll introduce them both at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
that
right,
sounds
thank
good.
you. Yep,
All right, Roland, good work. Thank you.
right.
Yeah, bro.
In all my spare time.
You
Yeah.
just have more jobs. All right. Agenda item number 7, old business.
Right.
I am so
718
glad.
Main Street.
I'm so,
Okay,
Sorry to
Andy,
interrupt, Beth.
before you get on 718 Main Street, you gotta mute Beth.
Sorry, Beth, I
No.
didn't mean to interrupt you. 718
No,
Main
that's
Street. At our last meeting, the board voted to allow him 2 weeks in order to bring it into compliance with the sanitary code, or upon failure of that, I was authorized to declare it unfit for human habitation based on your discussion and vote. He failed to bring it into compliance, so on Thursday, I issued the order that it was, per Board of Health vote, declared unfit for human habitation. He's had me in a couple times, but it's not ready to look at yet. So the place remains vacant, and it remains under declaration of unfit. I'll make it a point to drive by there once a week and try to find a minute in my time to get out there and make sure it stays vacant.
Andy,
so, Andy, what has he completed at this point?
Right now, we have the electric outstanding. He's gone a long way. He's done a lot of the windows. The electric is outstanding. He's done a lot of the windows. The property's been cleaned except for the front porch and some minor stuff, but the major trash on the property's been cleaned. He took down the illegally installed wall so that he restored the living room that he had turned into a bedroom. The railings have been repaired, the balusters on the interior stairs. Some of the lighting the lighting hasn't been addressed. Broken windows have been fixed, new windows have been put in. Just a lot of handyman type stuff has been done and improved. The biggest thing outstanding right now remains the electric.
So how many of those 8 24-hour period life safety issues were not completed? Do you remember offhand? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Trying to remember I believe they were all
Except
done.
the electrical.
Except the electrical.
The electrical. The smokes were all restored, although I walked through with our building inspector, Mike, and we noted that the kitchen smoke detector was a ionizing smoke detector, I believe it is. And because it's in a kitchen, anything within 10 feet of a kitchen or bathroom door requires a photoelectric. So the smoke detector was there, it was functioning, but it was the wrong type for that environment. Let me just look at find the order here.
So the property's been cleaned up, and so now there's just a pile of junk that's laying all around an overflowing dumpster.
Also the porch, I mean, the property has not been totally cleaned up, it has been significantly cleaned up. The
Like
porch
I said,
remain lidded, and I'm just waiting for him to call me back to say when these were done.
and they have permits for everything that
I
they
was just
need
going to say, the work that requires permits were permits pulled.
There was no work requiring permits because he didn't replace window, he repaired them. The wall that was there was not a structural wall, and it was installed illegally. Mike said it's obviously not of critical structure, so there was no requirement for for a permit there. Had he replaced windows, there would have been a requirement for permits. The only thing that's going to require permits is the electrical. There was some minor plumbing concerns, but all that required was loosening the tension bolt, pushing up on the pipe and tightening it, and Mike and I agreed that we were not going to hold out for a plumbing permit to tighten a bolt.
So that plumbing stuff has been done, correct?
Plumbing stuff is done.
Yeah. Okay, and Mike is certain that there's nothing wrong with the plumbing.
I'm not going to say certain, it's an old building, but the
Well,
plumbing is working, the water runs hot where it's supposed to run hot, it runs cold where it's supposed to run.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking. I didn't mean to imply a definite because nothing is definite. But as far as he can see, all the plumbing is functional.
Yes,
Okay.
And is heat where there's supposed to be heat?
there is, all of the all the heating system works.
Okay.
And there wasn't a permit required for that because that really was just putting fuel in the tank and bleeding the system.
Yeah.
Okay.
You had to buy the fuel. Well, you know what? He took me to school because I bent over backwards. We gave him the 2 weeks, and I feel that I took a big slap in the face. And if he has no right to ever come back and say that this board is picking on him like he did at that meeting. And the ball was in his court, and he hit a major foul ball on this one, so he's got to deal with it. And then later, Andy can enlighten the board on 66 Central Street, so that's a positive.
66 Central Street went into foreclosure. An auction occurred and it was purchased. So Mr. Hunter Foote is no longer owner of that property. I've been in touch with the new owner. I've explained everything we expect out of him. He bought both 66 and 70 Central Street. I told him that we expect a court order that was levied on the previous owner to be followed. On the surface, seems like a nice guy, seems like he'll get things done, seems very efficient. He talked about putting cameras on the property. He talked about improving the property. I expressed that this started with some drug activity back in the day, and he said he's going to put cameras on the property, and he's going to make it very clear to the tenants that he shares his camera footage with the police every opportunity he has. So I'm hoping he's a responsible landlord. Having said that, I believe he's from the North Shore somewhere. So I don't know what his presence will be in town. It's his first foray into Southbridge, although he is looking at 718 Main Street if the opportunity arises. So he might get a foothold in the town.
So, which brings me to my next question. What about the other Main Street? What is it, 319 or 320?
320
The
Main
other
Street.
boarding homes? What's going on with that situation? Because it seems to have been brought to the forefront as being another problem child.
320 Main Street, we have one apartment with no hot water in it. We have one apartment that is in the basement apartment. It opens to the storefront in front of it. And in order for them to have heat, the storefront has to be kept open because the storefront has heat, but the apartment doesn't. So they are not suffering per se with no heat. It's just a strange alternative heat. So what I am doing right now is compiling an inspection of the entire building, and I am going to bring that forth to Mr. Foote. And from there, if he fails to comply with the order, I'm working with a attorney winner from Talaman and Mead, and we will bring it forth to the courts and hopefully get Hunter Foote responsible for moving the tenants out of there. One of the tenants that is there was moved out of 718, so in my opinion, and they were moved out under a court order. So in my opinion, if we bring that forth to the judge, hopefully she will say you did not comply with the order by putting her into another less than sanitary housing. But I'm working with Mike and an attorney on this one, and we're going to move it as fast as we can to either fix it or vacate it.
Quick question.
Please.
So it's my understanding that actually I was told that that one of the people there is in a room that has only one entrance and exit. There's not even a window.
Correct, and I am citing that on there's a requirement in the sanitary code for natural light and natural ventilation. There is a requirement in the building code for a second means of escape from a sleeping room or a basement. So that's one of the things I'm writing up.
And that is also the individual that was moved from the other place.
Correct.
So he has already not abided by the court order.
That's the argument we are going to make. The court order said to move her out of that situation. We're going to make the argument that the court inferred that they should be moved to a safer situation, and he failed to do that. So he should be in contempt of that, even though we can't bring contempt. That action was between him and the tenant. So we can't bring contempt on that. One of the suggestions of the attorney was try to get her involved to file a contempt.
Okay. So just another quick question though. So if they are using extension cords to get electricity, to get heat from
Yes.
the storefront, then I just don't understand how that's acceptable as if that's okay.
It is.
I'm confused.
The
Because
storefront has
doesn't
heat in it.
that not meet the minimum requirements?
The storefront has a heating unit in it. They are taking overflow heat from there to heat the apartment. Because this thing is rented out by individual rooms, my argument is you can't leave a bedroom door open to get the heat into those bedrooms. The law says you have to supply the means to heat a place to 68 degrees. It doesn't say you have to have working heat inside the place. It just says it has to be heatable to 68 degrees. By renting those rooms out individually, you can't keep the bedroom doors open, so each bedroom needs to be supplied with a means of heat. He's failing to do that. The electric cord that you saw is actually running from inside the apartment to one of the bedrooms to feed one of the electric heaters. It's not running from the storefront. However, irrelevant. You're right, they shouldn't have to run extension cords to get heat. The people are heated to the adequate temperature right now, but the heating source is not legal.
So we're back to my same point, which is why are people continuing to live in these conditions? Why? I don't understand. So you were there a week ago to do an inspection. So why are they continuing to not have adequate stuff? I just don't understand.
I issued the order on him to fix that situation, and he has not complied with that order. So there's a process. And getting
Well,
a case in court today is not as easy as it used to be. I don't have a gun to say, do it now or you die.
That's not my point. That's not my point, Andy. We've known for months and months and months, because this goes back. We've known that this was a problem child as well as the other property, and yet I just feel like I'm chasing my tail, because this is the same situation. This is 718 all over again with the same owner who still doesn't want to do what he's supposed to do, which is to maintain his property and make sure that his tenants actually, you know, have a decent place to live. So clearly Hunter Foot does not give a rat's behind about the town of Southbridge or its residents. He's made that abundantly clear. And we're just back to where we were again. That's all I wanted to know, what was happening with that. Thank you.
I agree. I absolutely agree with where you're coming from.
One question.
I mean, I'm over it, you know, like he's not going to do what he's told to do. He's not going to do what he's supposed to do. So why are we waiting for things? We just need to move on.
And that is my intention. As I said, I'm working with a lawyer to get this in court. This is an occupied building, this town, so I do not have the authority to vacate it. I have to tread carefully, because if I do declare it unfit for human habitat, or if the board does, we are responsible for moving all of those
We're
people. And
responsible for
I
those
think there's
people.
upwards of 28
Okay.
people.
That
Okay.
was going to be my question. And I think that because of our previous dealings with the individual, I think that's what he wants to do, to take the relocation of his tenants,
Right.
and take that monetary responsibility and put it on the Southbridge taxpayers. And
I
enough is
agree.
enough on the Southbridge taxpayers. You know what?
I agree wholeheartedly, Roland.
There's lawyers out there that these tenants can get for free. And you know, you didn't hear it here, but these tenants, you know, if they're treated that way, they can call channel 4 or 5, help me Hank and everybody else. And you know, since this gentleman has property in Worcester and everything that is thriving, yeah, enough's enough. But I think we should pursue this through the courts. It's doesn't happen as fast as any of us want it to happen. But we should definitely, I am 100% against. I pray to God it doesn't end up to be another hole on Main Street when it burns down. But the point is that I do not want the responsibility of moving his tenants, who he's taken money from and continues to do that, on the taxpayers' back. I mean, if it becomes that dangerous for them, I would be the first one to vote yes. But they have some heat. This is comparable to what Andy said with the apartment on any 3-decker that has a parlor heater and your kitchen stove that's a gas heater. The bedrooms never had heat, so you got to leave the doors open. You can do that in an apartment, but you can't do that in a rooming house when you're renting it by the room. And that's what he turned it into.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it was being addressed and find out the status. Thank you, Andy.
Any other questions regarding 320 Main Street?
No.
The board asked me to
Good,
look into
Tony.
Idlewood Street. At the last meeting, I reported she denied me access. Mike and I both went out there on last week and again requested access. She denied us access. We spoke to her extensively regarding getting dumpsters, what she would need to help her clean the place up. I specifically told her that I was going to approach my attorney and see if we can get this one in court. I ordered her on paper to allow me access under Chapter under 105 CMR 400. She has to allow me access. I ordered it on paper, so I have an order that I can enforce. So I'm working through Rob Caprera. We're going to get that one in court and see if the court will listen to it. If they do, we'll get in. I'll determine the extent of the problem. We spoke with her extensively about cost of dumpsters and how she would go about cleaning the place. I also asked her if she would be open to accepting assistance if I got her tenancy preservation or if I got her the elder services, and she says she wants to think about that. Ultimately, in the end, I'm hoping the courts will support me getting in. Once I get in with a warrant or with a court order, I will determine the extent of the problem, and my intent will be to bring it back to the courts to try to get the courts to order a tenancy preservation type of situation. But right now, gaining access is the primary thing, and I've already talked to Rob Caprera. We're going to try to get this filed electronically with the courts and move forward that way. So I'll be preparing those court papers over the next 3 to 4 days.
Andy, since you and your building inspector had a face-to-face, how is her physical and mental health, in your opinion?
I think she's fine. Talking to her, if you take her off site, if you take her away from the blight, you're going to say no concern. Looking at her in the housing situation, because when she opened the door, I can see the dog, I can see the conditions, I have to question it. So,
No, I'm ecstatic to hear that she's thinking about accepting help. I mean, that's our goal. That's the goal of the whole thing.
Absolutely.
so if she accepts help, we'll put elder services on it, and hopefully tenancy preservation protection program. Also, we'll reach out to RCAP or other such things and see if they can help her close up the eaves and stuff like that. We have no jurisdiction over an overgrown yard. We can tell her she has to clean the yard, but hopefully she'll go for the dumpster and she'll go for the assistance.
Okay, thank you.
Good work. All right, Vienna. What's
Vienna
happening?
specifically sent Michael.
Besides, they don't know how to
Michael
shovel
out.
time.
Specifically
All right.
sent Michael out to talk to Trey. He is the owner of the Vienna. His intention is to turn that into a 5-unit apartment building. He has informed us that he will have a machine on site next week to start pulling trees and pulling stumps, and that he will be pulling a permit at the end of next week. I instructed Michael that if that does not happen, then we are going to move forward declaring it a blighted building and demand that he register it as a blighting building, and that we will move forward on demolishing the building if he does not move on the permits as he promised. So if we don't see permits by the end of next week, I'm going to tell Michael to get in touch with him and tell him we are going to move on a demolition. Hopefully that will spark him to pull the permits and at least get the windows. Again, the permits that he's going to pull are just for the exterior of the windows and closing up the eaves again. The full permit will be further on down when he gets approval from the planning board.
Roland?
Andy, pass on. I mean, I personally really don't care about pulling stumps, but those windows are poorly secured. And I think that was the goal of this board. And using a little history, if you look at 880 Main Street, where the old keg was, you remember that, Tony? We had a fire in that building. It was 9 below. I remember that night vividly. That used to be a 3-decker. The owner was ordered to secure that building. The owner was self-insured. The owner took the top floor off. He put a pitch roof on it. He sided it and he put new windows, and it's vacant. How many of you didn't realize that that building's vacant? But he secured it. He did not make it an eyesore. He did not allow it to remain an eyesore at one of our gateway entrances to this town. The Vienna needs minimal work to physically secure the outside of that building compared to what 880 Main Street needed. And this guy's got to get off his duff, or otherwise, you know, if that's a blighted building, we should be fining him, because if you owe the town money, you pay your fines or you can't pull a permit. Take care of your buildings instead of building new ones to make big money. And put the windows in to secure that building, because if it stays in that condition with those open windows, he's not going to have much of the structure left to put apartments in, because it's going to get all deteriorated from the weather. So it's about time that he steps up, because it's been long enough.
I mean, Roland, how long ago was the fire? You know, I mean, that,
2017.
exactly. So the condition of that building is exactly the same exteriorly as it was when Bob and Denise Clements went over there and helped Jonathan and Lisa board it up after the fire. They have done, no one has done anything to that
No,
space.
you're right. You're absolutely
It looks
correct.
it looks exactly the same since 2017. Enough. And I'm still really ticked off that he couldn't even go over there and have somebody shovel the damn snow off the sidewalk. I almost hit a pedestrian yesterday because they were walking in the street.
Yeah, I hope the police are tagging him every time it snows, because that sidewalk, he's responsible all the way up to the back of the store. And it hasn't been done.
You know, I mean, I feel like he's another one.
Yep.
If you can't take care of the property and do things with the property, then what's the point?
Sell it to somebody who may want to renew that building, but don't sit on it and let it rot, because Denise and them did the best they could without being contractors and lifts and ladders to secure that building. But that building was never secured from the elements, and this guy did not do anything as supposedly a contractor, and he knows better on how to properly secure a building. And if that's the case, maybe the town ought to call a board up company and then attach his damn taxes to make sure it's sealed properly from the outside, not sealed from the inside. I mean, I hate to spend taxpayers' money because I'm a taxpayer and we pay enough. But this is another building right there adjacent to our downtown. That used to be an absolutely beautiful building. And we don't need to see another vacant lot like the Beechwood, because the owner let it go to disarray. And it's a shame that the owner of that building is capitalizing on other parts of town and not very easily and quickly going in and put replacement windows in that and be done with it. That's all it's needed for the most part. I mean, it didn't burn the roof off like Main and Pleasant. I mean, he took the whole top floor off and rebuilt it. And that's all we're looking for. We're not looking to have it, you know, people move in. Just secure it from the outside and preserve it.
As I said, my expectation right now is that he's going to come in and pull a permit to do the windows, so it will look like an occupied building. If he fails to do that, we will move in a direction that ultimately will have the town taking it down.
All right. Such a shame, because it was a pretty building. Gus?
Yeah, just a quick observation. Maureen just mentioned that for some reason that building had to go through conservation several years ago. So it's quite possible that any permits, and I'm assuming it had to go to planning board as well, any permits they may have already expired.
I'm not sure why they went to Concord.
So they may have to run through the process again. We may end up knocking that building down anyway because they can't be bothered to do the right thing. Hope not.
Which is unfortunate.
Yet again, that's
right.
You know, I feel like we have like 3 or 4 individuals that own a whole bunch of stuff in this town who are so overstretched because they're worried about the next big thing and building the next thing that they can't be bothered to build the thing that they already have. And it's so frustrating to me because I could think of at least 3 off the top of my head right now. And it's just so frustrating. Don't buy it if you don't have the funds to fix it.
Yep. Maybe this, I don't know if there's any way we could set up the law so that you can only have a certain number of properties. I mean, you
No,
mentioned that person who had bought that property from the North Shore somewhere. Hopefully he's a good landlord, but the fact that he's from 60 miles away or immediately raises a red flag to me.
Yeah, I
but
don't
you know
know.
what?
I'll give him the benefit of the
What-
doubt because we don't know him, but
If he's gonna put cameras around the building, he can watch his property 24/7. But this guy on Main Street with the Vienna, regardless of what he needs for permits, there's a process and he hasn't started it yet. So
done
that's the goal. Put your big boy pants on, start the process. We're not asking you to give it a whole new brand paint job and make sure it's ready for people to move in next Friday. We're asking you to secure it like the gentleman did on 880 Main Street. And I think of that building all the time. And when I go by that thing on the way to Sturbridge, nobody in this world would ever notice that that's a vacant building because he did an absolutely fabulous job of securing it and making it presentable. And that's all we're asking.
Exactly. So, all right, Andy, thank you. Anybody have anything else to add? We good?
I'm good.
All right. All right, moving on. Chairman announcements. I really don't have any because I already complained about the two things that I wanted to complain about today. So, Andy, go ahead.
That's not what court said.
I just want to make it known to everybody that the Board of Health or the Department of Health is going to be getting compost bins and rain barrels for distribution to the public. I know the compost bins are going for $25. I believe we pay 50 or close to 50 for them. And the rain barrels, I think are also 25, but I'll have to confirm that with Anna. But we should be getting those within the next couple of weeks. That is through the curbside grant that we get, the points grant we get. So that at no cost to the town, and the grant mandates that we don't sell them for more than a certain amount. So we buy them for like 40 or 50 bucks and we'll sell them for 25. The only other announcement I have is that I have started interviews for a health inspector position. This position was vacated by Alicia in August. We have gone through the council, one of the subcommittees that had a pretty good council attendance. They were supportive of this, so we're fairly confident that they'll stand by that and support this when we bring somebody forth. So I'm hoping to fill that position within the next couple of weeks.
Good, good. Anything else?
No, that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions? So those rain barrels and the compost bins should make Maureen happy, Gus.
Let's just hope we can use them soon and it's not continues
Not
to
snow
be
barrels?
18 degrees out.
Exactly. All right, board member announcements. Roland?
Negative, I said enough. You're welcome.
Nicole?
Actually, I do have something. I had a mom reach out to me recently. Her teenage daughter has been in like a really bad depression and mental health crisis. And, it's startling to know that it's a 3-month wait before she can get in to see a therapist. I mean, it's that far back. I'm sure we all know that we're in a mental health crisis right now. And, particularly, I think the kids and the teens are having a hard time. And I just want to know, I'd like to actually maybe table it, for next time. I'd like to discuss and address those mental health issues. And I have a couple of ideas that I'd like to, kind of put out there. So I just want to know if we could table that for next time.
What exactly do you have in mind?
Well, I think, at this point in time, I mean, honestly, we've got the phone numbers 211 and all that. And it's just, they're taking longer to get back to people, the resources are stretched. And my idea is that I found that, especially with kids and teens, mentoring really helps. There's nothing that helps them more when they see another kid, another teen going through the same thing that they are. And what I found is that, nothing, when someone's in a bad position, nothing helps them or makes them feel more empowered when they can actually reach out and help somebody else. And I know with this COVID and everything, I know we have a rec department, and my thought was that, I don't know if there's any monies to be used, but my thoughts are, maybe create like a mentoring program. And I'd be more than willing to, put myself out there for that.
Well, I'm not sure that you need the board to do that. I mean, I don't know, Andy, is there any, because I know like money is thin for everything. What do you think?
There is no rec director. We have a vacant spot, so Pat Haddock
Projects.
did that for Andy. Pat's been
Okay.
kind for doing that. Not that there's much to do. Is this young lady still in school, Nicole?
Yes, she is. Yeah.
Um,
The counselors in schools, they're all at, to their ends there. It's like the resources aren't just there. I mean, across the board, it really is an issue. And,
Well, I think the
especially
other
with
problem
COVID.
too, sorry, I think the other problem too, I mean, there never were resources. So now we have, all these problems that are compounded
Right.
and, and taking up resources that we never had to begin with. You know what I
Well,
mean?
they didn't at least have to wait 3 months before, but now it's a wait, they'd have to wait. And yeah, again, kind of like the same thing that you and I were talking about, going through the system, it takes time. But
Right.
now it's even worse, exactly. And then now that the kids, they have less places to go, they can't just go hang out somewhere. It's adding, and especially with the remote learning, it's creating a lot of frustration. I mean, the suicide rates are up. I mean, everything, it's a crisis. And I think wherever we can to support, and I think I found in my own experiences with CASA, mentoring is huge. And I know even when my son had gone to Trinity, they had kind of like a mentoring thing where they automatically team up an 8th grader with a kindergartner. And throughout the year, whenever they have field trips and everything like that, that child would be responsible for overseeing. And it just creates it just creates a great thing on both ends. One, it makes the older child, feel responsible. I'm important. I matter in this community. And I think that's key for this community, is that these kids right now, they're like, oh, well, what do I have to offer? What do I have to contribute? I think that would target that. In addition to that, would actually have the younger child have someone to look up to. And I think maybe kind of almost like creating kind of like, how they have like a school council, you know what I mean? But with kids, with mentoring, I think there's a lot of different things that we could work with. And I think that we should create something with that, especially now.
I mean, Andy, I don't know what you think. I'm wondering if maybe that's not something that we could see about working with the school about.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is what I want to start with. It's just, I mean, this can connect, across the board. It really can. I mean, there's a lot of potential for, a lot of different things. It's just, I think I'd like to get it started, you know what I mean? And my thought was the rec department, because, COVID, nothing's going on. I was thinking money in terms of that, just to kind of get it started,
I mean, the only thing now is,
You're a town counselor. God.
What's that?
well,
I said then that would go to the town councilor as far as money for the rec department, because that's not anything that we have any control over.
Well,
Right.
that's true.
Well, I'm not even necessarily mean anything.
For budgetary.
Hang
Oh,
on.
go ahead, sorry.
So
Wait, what was
Like
that,
that.
Gus?
saying that last I had checked, and we haven't talked about it recently, we had put rehiring some of these slots on hold because of the COVID funding issues.
Okay.
the other question I have, Nicole, because with this COVID thing, everything on mentoring, and here's my problem with people. And I remember when my daughter was on the National Honor Society eons ago. The traditional counseling, people got to look outside the box.
They
And I
do.
love your idea, and a lot of people aren't capable of doing that. And I'm thinking of maybe, now you mentioned the counselors in the schools. They're overburdened, they can't do it. What's the matter with the rest of the school system or the school organization? If a National Honor Society, if the students that are excelling, because we've got to do a lot of things on the computer because of COVID. but
Right.
forming groups with these people, because this girl she might be a math whiz, but have some other problems. So if these inner school groups, and college has frats, but these inner school clubs and these inner school grades and this type of other stuff, if she's a math whiz, we don't know this, but maybe the math department knows what she excels at and can grab her as a point person to help these other kids. And that will
Right.
give her, you know what I'm saying? So my concern, and I see a lot of it today, that, well, I can't do my job because this is what my job is. Well, we can't do it because of COVID. We can't have face-to-face sessions. Well, look outside the box and break those barriers. What can you do to
Yeah.
make
Well, they're already doing social media, so I mean, they could absolutely do that remote. They wouldn't even have to do it that way. It's just making the connection. And of course, even the most needy of teens, if they need it and they're even telling you they need it, you know what, we all know, you know what, they're going to be apprehensive to even like pick up a phone. But if you're told, hey, you know what, this kid could really need, really use your help, could you help them out? They will jump to that versus get help for themselves.
It's
And
all
that's
how
the
you
change.
portray it. If a
Yeah.
teacher or somebody said, Nicole, I need your help with
Exactly.
this group, and make them
Exactly.
part of the solution, they'll
Right.
embrace it.
Right. You make them feel important. They're part of the community. They're doing something. And then along the way, all of a sudden they feel better. You know what I mean? They have a purpose. And I think that's the main thing. A lot of these kids don't have a purpose, especially now.
I think that it would probably be a good thing if it was sponsored by the Board of Health. If it's sponsored by the Board of Health, I do have some monies for advertising opportunities, but
Right.
we have a budget that for advertising Board of Health functions or for Board of Health activities. I agree with pretty much the consensus here that it belongs with the schools, but I don't see why we couldn't co-sponsor it and pay for some of the advertising to get the word out there that it's doable. I don't know what other costs would be tied into it to make it happen. It sounds like it's mostly volunteer and goodwill type stuff more than money. So I do have I do have an advertising budget. I don't know how robust it is. I think it's only a couple $100, but we could definitely use it for that.
Yeah.
We would obviously, this would help in the budget process when I go to the council and say the Board of Health is planning to use this budget for this, and this. We have underutilized that budget historically, so I think that it's potentially a good use for the money and a good chance for us to put our name on something that's worthwhile.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I guess come up with like a, like just like a general kind of plan, and we'll put it on the meeting for next month.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Maybe we could do an outreach also, or however an outreach is done, because I was just thinking of the clubs that are out there or the other organizations that are out there that might be dormant because of
Oh,
COVID.
yeah.
The Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Brownies, any of these other organizations, never mind making lasagna, but you might, they might embrace something that is not really has been in their wheelhouse, but to kind of, expand your group, because you're not supposed to be getting together and going on your camping trips, but you might be able to do something like that. And they all have merit badges and they have all this
There's a
other
ton of
stuff.
creativity. Yeah, I agree. There's a ton of, there's so many different ways. There's so many different creative options,
Yeah.
I agree. But I think I just want to get the kids involved in that, like to help themselves with that as well. Not just, overall, it helps everyone. It's a domino effect. Yep.
This could be their project and that will help them.
Yep.
All right, so yeah, just, pick like a, just like a general kind of idea, and we'll put it on for next month.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Sure. Anything else? Tony?
Nope, that's it.
So Maybe we can teach them how to make lasagna, Roland.
Hey.
But to that point, hey, to the club's credit, we're doing other things. So,
I'm kidding.
but I know you are. But speaking about the club, Roland, you as the coordinator of the vaccine, you know, if we can ever help in that manner, we should talk.
There's a lot of, and I'm not discounting that, but Andy can echo in. There is a lot of people that want to come and help. And
Okay.
I want to say this, thankful and appreciative, but this is like running a shelter.
Yeah. Hey,
People
before you say before the but though, you know, I'm not talking manpower only. I'm talking facility.
I'm going to tell you something. You want facilities, right now they're open 5 days a week. There is a little back room. These people are working. Some of these people are working from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. What do you know of people working? And I will tell you, it is one happy group. The workers, the people coming in, they're not being abused. Like some nurses have told me, I love working here because people are receptive
Like when
and they're
they're
happy.
lower?
They're not going into the ER expecting to be a 5-star hotel. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
They love it. But what do people need? What is the happiest thing you can do when you're working? Having a nice meal. So if a donation was ever brought down there, and especially if it was called ahead of time, because I don't know how often the hospital has 2 people that are the coordinators, Jason and Heather. And I don't know what's known, but there are groups that bring food over there, because they're there all day and they go in the back room and there's a certain room in the back that they have their breaks. But you know something? If there was some nice Italian food that was delivered there,
That's what I'm talking about. So,
if that's
so
what you're
Roland,
talking about, baby, I can get you, I can hook you up and
name.
send you an email on their contact. And
Yep.
that I would love you for a long time.
Yep. Give me some names. We'll be happy to help.
All right, I'll email.
That's what we do. But
Okay,
all right.
perfect. Yep, that'll be wonderful.
Okay. That's
Hey,
it for me, Beth.
I'm sending you Heather's email right now.
Okay.
Okay. We'll just keep Carlton away from it.
Yeah, right? All right. Schedule next meeting.
Okay, barring any disasters, any further disasters, the second Thursday of March is March 11th.
That works.
We're already that much closer to summer.
6 o'clock?
6 sounds good to me if it's good for you people.
Yeah.
We good with you, Andy? You gonna be around?
I got nowhere else to go.
Until your wife tells you where to go.
Well, she's done that.
I'm sure. Sure that's happened
We're
already.
still gonna continue this virtual because your decision on, and I'm pointing to you, Gus, the decision on going just the board in the dais at the town hall is still pending.
Yeah, we're still waiting to see whether the cable people can work out something where we can actually talk among ourselves and have anybody out there hear us and vice versa. That, as far as I know, hasn't been worked out yet. As of the last time we had talked about this back in December, we had continued meeting remotely basically for the foreseeable future. We don't have a specific date to bring it back up yet.
Oh, I know.
I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Last meeting and a meeting before, you were trying to work on some issues to try to get the council themselves back into the town hall, not the general public.
Right. There's been some talk of that, and I know some of the councilors would really like to do that, and some of us are a little more neutral on it. I'm kind of neutral on it. I think the system we have right now actually does work pretty well, and maybe we're just kind of getting too used to staying at home and being able to talk, which are benefits to that. But there are also definitely benefits to being in the room together and being able to share ideas and stuff like that. So I think that personally, I think that I would rather see us have public meetings where the public can actually show up.
Yeah,
But-
those that want to, yeah.
On the flip side, even these remote meetings, 90% of them have almost nobody in the audience, as you
I'm
know.
gonna tell you something, Gus, and this goes for everything. I was just gonna say that we have the easy thing that you don't even have to leave your house and put a coat on.
Right.
And we did get people to attend the meetings, and that includes our meeting because we've had some very important meetings. And we have had no counselors show up. And
Yeah.
then they question it later. And this is easy. This is very easy to do. It doesn't, hey, you don't even have to wear pants. Just don't stand up.
You're stealing my line, bro. What I say all the time, people just don't want to put pants on anymore, so they do everything remote.
That's what I tell my students. Pay attention or you'll stand up.
Pants optional.
That's me now, right?
It's all about our happiness.
It is interesting that the one meeting we actually had a really good turnout for was the dog hearing. We had
Oh, I
dozens.
missed
of people show up.
that.
And then you had
No.
your meeting for the school hearing that you
That
guys
was fun.
had that had dozens of people show up. And those are the only two big meetings I can think of in months.
92 people were on the computer for that school meeting.
That was crazy. And we had like 30 something for ours.
I
So.
missed the dog thing. I forgot.
All right. That being said, that was my last question. So if there's nothing more, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
I second that.
All right.
Jeff Stevens,
Yes.
Roland LaRochelle,
Yes.
Postali,
Yes.
Paul Duffy.
Yes.
All right. This meeting is adjourned, 8:09.
Good night, all.
thanks, guys.
Good night. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Night.